Hey everybody, so here's just a quick video of out in the garden. So this is what I find awfully interesting, and it's really, you know, kind of an interesting concept. So here I am sitting at my raised beds, right? And in my raised beds you have really good dirt, right? Underneath here is some really good dirt. It's been amended. It's got, moisture with the cocoa coir and peat moss, so it retains moisture. It's got the wood chips on top, right? And then of course, you plant your transplants right in there in that great soil, right? And you'd expect it just to explode and just be the huge big plants that you would want to see, right? I mean, it should have everything in the perfect soil. But again, it's hot, so you got to take that into account. But I mean, here's the plants, and while they grew, it's not exactly the forest that you'd expect with the primo dirt, right? Now, on the opposite end, look at here. This is just all the mulch that I threw on the ground earlier at the beginning of the year. And, this, when you pull back the mulch, it's starting to break down. So look at that black humus you're going to see. But, I mean, if you go down far enough, you're basically going to hit the dirt, the old grass, and probably clay, right? At the end of this all. So this is not broken down yet. This is fairly new mulch, fairly new everything, right? Plus, here you have my Malabar spinach growing right out from this randomly. And look at it. Look at how thick the stalk is. Look, I got 1, 2, 3. This guy over here who's more in the grass than he is in the mulch. And pulling the grass so it don't creep up. Now, I ask you this. This is the thing that bothers gardeners and farmers. This seed was something that dropped off the plant last year when I harvested them. And I didn't have any of this mulch here. So this went right into like the grass basically. It's down that, and you can see I don't know if you can see the hill, but this is a deep, thick mulch. And that little seed is way down there. But it grew, right? This does not get any water. Any water that this little plant got came from runoff from that probably, as it soaked in and then came out, or rain. So this grew in spite of having poorer soil conditions. It was one seed out of how many that dropped, and it says, I'm rooting and I'm going to make my way not only through this mulch, but dig into the terrible soil underneath. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. But yet here, with the primo conditions that you just put a plant in and say, grow, you've got the best. There, I guess maybe you go back to the Back to Eden garden videos, and maybe you take Jeff Goldblum's Life Finds a Way theory in Jurassic World. And is this really the optimal way to plant? Drop a seed in. It doesn't have to have perfect soil conditions, perfect pH balance, perfect fertilizer, or even perfect water conditions. It has a better chance here than if we gave it a perfect world here. Like, must the seed struggle to put in roots? Is that why these opportunistic plants grow fuller and stronger and can withstand 110 degree heat? Whereas these little seedlings that grew in peat moss in some nursery, and then you stick it in your perfect soil, is it because it doesn't have to struggle, it doesn't have to try hard, that it doesn't grow as good as this here? I don't understand it. I'll give you another example. The tomatoes grew okay this year, right? You put in the plants and there's the tomatoes, are still there. But look at this. There are 2 tomato plants right here that I didn't plant tomatoes here. This was Swiss chard, carrots, beets. But somewhere, some loose tomato seed got in here. And I don't know how it did either because I didn't plant seeds back here. So this tomato that grew out of this was some tomato that must have been part of the dirt last year. It decomposed and the seeds were there. And boom, look at how this tomato, and I staked it up, but this little guy is strong. He's so far withstanding the heat, and he has little yellow flowers. Now, I mean, it can only do so much in 110 degree weather. But how the hell is this guy growing where no tomato was even present? And the tomato plants that had the best start, the best fertilizer, the best everything. Are we babying them too much? Are we somehow overwatering and over-fertilizing when we shouldn't have to? This is the conundrum that I want answers to. You know, why is it that everything that I take care to give it the best everything, it doesn't do as good as the stuff that is just growing like that? I want some answers to that question, right? Because all of us who spend hours toiling and making the raised beds and definitely spending a ton of money, this is not cheap. And should we come out here, throw seeds of all variety around and just let them grow? And what comes up is the strongest. What doesn't never was a strong plant. And thus, if it did grow and make it through it, it'll survive 110 degree heat. I don't know, folks. I don't have that answer. But as we can see here, these are doing well. Some. This good old plant here is nice and deep green. And I need to get my trellis up. And it's starting to vine out. But some of the other ones look a little pale. There's a little dragonfly. I don't get it. The other thing is, these are raised beds. So underneath here is good dirt, right? Good dirt. But if you notice, my best plants this year are the melons. And these melons I planted not in the raised beds. I just planted them directly into this mulch. Fresh wood chip mulch that hasn't even had a year to break down. And I just pushed it off to the side like this. Made a little bit of dirt, stuck it in and said, okay, grow. And boy, did those melons, every single melon looked sickly. Like, it ain't gonna survive. But as soon as the weather got hot, these things have vined out all over the place. The ones in the raised beds, the other plants, struggle it seems. But the ones that are in this mulch that don't have more than an inch probably of dirt, they pushed those roots in and off they went. And I got melon vines all over the place on this side. I don't get it, folks. Just like Paul says in the Back to Eden, is it truly where you stop to think and you ask the Creator, are you telling me something, right? The Creator, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it. But is nature telling you something like, you don't have to spend money. You probably didn't even have to have these raised beds. I could have probably put these tomato plants directly in the mulch. It would have buried in that clay and grew maybe better than the raised bed. I don't know, folks. It's interesting, but the way nature is telling me, the more I baby, the more money I spend, the worse it is. But the less you do, the less water. Both of those, that Malabar spinach and these melons, all they did is get runoff water. And then I did put some water there too, but to me it's fascinating. This is the struggle of the gardener. How much is nature just going to do? How much are we going to try to force it to do? And what's the best approach? I don't know. Maybe you've experienced some of these same things. I'm sure you have. But maybe together we'll figure it out. And changing the subject, my darn son chokes. Those plants have gotten so tall, they fall right on over. And I got to tie them up again because they're going to shade out my plants. I'm going to have to get out here in this heat and pull them back. I tried. I got to get a stake and do it the right way. I'm trying to do it here with a minimal effort. And that, what that usually gets you. Anyways, folks, we'll leave it at that. Talk to you later.